couple of things about squid, they only live for about a year or less than. Squid don't live longer than a year. The boys, they live for about 320 to 330 days. The girls, they die after about 300. So they're only here for a couple of reasons. That's to eat, breed and be eaten. One thing they're really good at is sex. Because they only live for a year, they've got to be really good and productive with their spawn. If they're not, the species dies out. So they've become really good at spawning over the years. Eating and being eaten, there's nothing that doesn't eat squid except me, and squid eats everything. Okay, so they are a crazy animal that just does nothing but eat. If they don't eat, they don't grow. If they don't grow, they don't breed. If they don't breed, they die out in less than a year. So they've become really good at those few things. Now the blokes, they'll only have a spawn once. They're a bit lazy, so they have a crack once and then they disappear to look after eggs. The females, they can take a couple hundred partners in a session, so they're a little bit easier than the blokes. The blokes are just lazy, I think, but that happens with us too. In Australia, we are pretty lucky with the spawn. We don't have a climate where we have extreme highs and extreme lows. Our climate's quite steady as we go. So when the water's at 17 degrees, the squid will spawn. Now that can happen up to 12 times a year. So we have a productive spawn run all throughout the year at different stages, which is why we catch different size squid all on the one day, because they've bred and spawned at different stages. If you go to places like Asia and Europe, you'll only catch the same size squid all the time. You'll either be small or they'll all be big. It's because they only spawn once. Because of the extreme temperature changes, they don't have that level temperate climate for long enough. Here's a little bit of squid porn for you. Now, I hope nobody enjoys this, because you're just going to be an outright sicko if you do. The easiest way for me to explain the spawning of a squid, it's a bit like an 18-year-old bloke going to the pub for the first time. Sort of hangs up at the bar with his mates because he's got no confidence yet. And the whole spawning ritual's a dance. So he needs to prove to her that he's okay to spawn with. So once he's got a bit of confidence, he's left his mates, he's now on the dance floor trying to impress his chick. He'll copy, mimic everything that she does because he needs to prove to her that he's okay to do so. You see the pattern in the eyes, everything's exactly the same, it's a synchronising thing. If they're not productive enough, if they look like they're a bit weak, like in real life, the bouncer will come in here and cut his lunch because he's shown that he's a stronger species and that he's going to have a better productive spawn than the smaller, weaker version. Now after they've spent a bit of time getting to know each other, sorry about the gay music, they will wander off into the corner and have a little bit of a cuddle. And just like an 18-year-old bloke at the pub for the first time, it's as quick as this. Now don't blink because you'll miss it. That's it. Now he's only going to do that once. He's now going to go off and hang around with his mates again and talk about the experience he had with, we'll call her Carol. And she'll stick around and wait for another half a dozen blokes to come along to impress her again. But because it does take so long, and it is such a big effort for the female, look, she does do a lot of work over that couple of days, that when she's finished on the spawn, they don't feed while they're spawning. So she'll just fall to the bottom and start eating herself to death because she hasn't got enough energy to chase food anymore. So they'll spawn and spawn and spawn and lay eggs and lay eggs and lay eggs until they physically can't do it anymore, then they just die. So that's the females. The blokes stick around for a bit longer. You'll see it again a couple of times. What actually happens is he reaches over, turns upside down, and with an arm, he grabs a hold of her. With another arm, he reaches into his bag of tricks, pulls out what's called a spermatophore and gives it to her. She now sorts through them, finds the one she thinks is best, and then that's the eggs. That's a mop which contains strands. Each strand can contain up to 50 squid. Now something different than fish, when a squid comes out of an egg after about 6 weeks, it's not a fry or a larvae or anything else, it's a fully functioning adult squid. So that one there is about a quarter of the size of my little fingernail, and they do everything the same as an adult squid. They're pretty cute when they're little, just like kids. So these little critters will double in size every 4 to 6 weeks. So because they only live for a year, and if they keep eating and eat properly, they will get big really quick. So yeah, if you catch a squid that's this big, come back 6 weeks later, he's going to be this big. Okay, it's going to be the same squid, but they're just going to be much bigger. Alright, Egi. We've sort of given this away a few times now. Does anyone actually know what Egi is? The easiest way for me to explain it, I'll do it as quick as I can. It's about 400 years ago, there's a couple of blokes in Japan trying to catch squid. Now the way they used to do it was they'd put a ring through the nose of a live bait and feed it out. As the squid would come in close, they'd have these big hemp nets laying in the water. They'd try and scoop them up and catch what they can. It didn't work. It was really tough work. And squid was an absolute delicacy because it was so hard to catch back then. Now, this bloke was fishing with his mates, and we'll call him Suzuki for the sake of the exercise. Suzuki was sitting there watching and monitoring how the fish would attract the squid. And it wasn't so much them attracting, but the squid would come in on the fish when they weren't moving. So well, how can I make something that won't move and get the squid to come in? So he went away and he found a bit of driftwood, whacked a coin in it, tested it until he got it right, and it sat nice and naturally buoyant and slowly sank just like a bait fish would. When he pulled his bit of string, the jig would dart. The squid would come in and grab it. So that was 400 years ago, and it looked like this. Now, there's something the Japanese folks are really good at, and that's not fixing stuff and it's not broken. This one was made 6 months ago. There's no difference other than a slight difference in shape. They've obviously, studied it, the way that water responds to different shapes and that in the water, and they've made it change to work better, but fundamentally 400 years old, less than a year old. So it is the same as what it is now. Jigs are designed that way for a reason. Has anyone ever wondered how a squid jig's meant to work? They're not just designed to fall to the bottom like that and then just move like this. Okay, there's a reason why there's a hump in the back. If I put pressure here, water goes there, yeah? Which causes the jig to do what? That. Now they've all got a round back, which means depending on which way the water's moving at the time, after it's gone like this, it'll fall one way. Now if I pull my rod this way, it's going to pull the jig the other way, isn't it? And then if I pull it that way again, just straight up, it's going to pull the jig back the other way. So it's causing that jig to dart from left to right, and that's why jigs are designed and shaped that way. It's not designed just to fall and slide along the bottom. They are designed to move and look like a bait fish, and that is the first, or that one there is the first artificial lure for fishing it ever. Now when Suzuki designed that, he said, you know what, I'm going to call that Egi. And that's where it came from. It wasn't something Shimano came up with 6 months ago to sell you more crap. It wasn't something Daiwa invented. This was long before they even were ever around. So that's what Egi is. Squid, where do we find them? There's this another common misconception that squid are sort of only found up to sort of 10 metres or up to 12 metres. I catch them successfully in 50 metres. And that is southern calamari, and that is with a jig and no dramas at all. So squid aren't just in that shallow inshore water. You can find them all over the place in really deep water. I've caught them in less than a metre as well. So in some places you can physically spot squid while I'm on my electric motor looking for other things, and I found squid. There's not one part of Australia where you can't catch squid. Whether you're in Stacia, far north Queensland, or whether you're in low at the bottom of Tasmania, you can catch squid. I'm sure that everyone's caught a squid at every different spot along the coast here as well. So to give you an idea of how many squid there are, for every 1 kilogram of human meat, bad reference, there's about 40 tonne of squid. Okay, so that makes me, I'm not even going to get you to do the math, you'll know how fat I am then, but...
In the world or Australia?
No, that's just the ratio of human meat to squid in the total biomass.
Okay, yeah.
So the squid biomass make up more than 60% of the entire ocean biomass. So that's how many there are. So we only got, we only sort of concentrate on calamari or arrow squid, but around the world, that's how many squid there are. So there's lots of them. We do have bag limits and that sort of thing for a reason. You got bag limits here?
15.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Strict.
Yeah. We do have them for a reason, and that's because if we all went out tomorrow and for the next every day for the next couple of years, we would wipe them out. They are very good at sex and spawning and reproducing, but they only live for a year. So if we wipe out 12 cycles of spawn, we wipe out a species. So that's why there is bag limits. Now, I don't want you to feel bad for taking your bag limit, because there's shitloads of them. There really is. But the governments of different states have obviously done the study to work out how much can each person take to make this fishery sustainable, and over here it's 15, 20, 15. It's whatever they say it is. Anyone catch whiting? If you can catch whiting, you can catch squid. You don't need to find any special spots to catch squid. If you've caught whiting, you'll catch squid. Why? Squid eat whiting and whiting eat squid. It's pretty simple, isn't it? So, you don't need to find any new, mysterious, secret little spots to find squid. You've obviously fished them before. Everyone's caught slimies or yakkers or tommies or, all these small skippy, you call them skippy here, Trevally?
Yes.
Wherever you find those fish, that's a squid eat. And all of these fish eat squid. So concentrate on the places where you do normally find a lot of bait fish, because squid are pigs and they'll follow the bait. Okay, where the food is, that's where the squid are. There's a bit of a rule with squid fishing as far as I'm concerned, that if there's no flow, there's no go. But if you're going to fish places where your water's moving at about 5 knots, don't expect to find squid there. Squid are a little bit like me, we're a drive-through animal. We don't like working hard for our food, we like our food to come to us. So the other part of it is too, they're not big on snacks, they're more interested in a feed. They don't drive to every McDonald's in town, buy a small packet of chips, they go to one and buy a couple of meals because they get more energy without having to expel lots of energy. Okay, and if they're in fast water, they have to expel lots and lots of energy to get the same amount of food as if they're sitting out of the current, like I like to do, and just wait for my food to come up. Now it's a bit different with squid, actually get bigger, I get rounder. So that's the only difference between the two of us. Clean water is paramount. Like I was saying earlier with the squid ink, it can actually suffocate the squid. Dirty water is just dirt suspended in water, yeah? So if you've got dirty water, that's killing the squid. So try and find some clean water and you'll do much better. Does anyone here not own a boat, or anyone here just fish land-based? For those that fish in boats, you've all probably put thousands of dollars worth of electronics into your boats as well. Use them. It's really easy. Now on my boat I have got an anchor, still wrapped in the shrink wrap, and I've got a rope that's still wrapped in its shrink wrap too. I drift for my squid, and I use my sounder religiously, on my GPS religiously, not to find squid, but if I'm drifting and I hook up to a squid, it's just one button, enter, and I've just told my unit there's a squid there. I keep drifting. Catch another one, squid never on their own. Enter. Keep drifting, nothing. I'll just come back around over that same patch again. Same drift. Catch another one, enter. All of a sudden you create little patches of where the squid have been. You keep going back to those spots, drifting over those same patches. There's a reason why the squid are there. It's because of the ground that's there. That's where they live, hunt and breed. And that's where the food is too. Okay, so if you put thousands of dollars worth of electronics in your boat, you might as well use it, because a lot of people don't. Okay, the most fundamental part of squid fishing is their sight. Now 2/3 of that brain that they've got, that donut, is made up for sight. Okay, so you got to bear in mind that 2/3 of it's for sight, but they've become really good at sex, so the other third isn't for much other than for spawning. Okay, they're quite stupid animals, but they're really good at a few things, which is looking, seeing, and eating and spawning. That's the 3 things they're good at. They're not good at much else. Anyone know how many colours squid can see? Yes, 2, black and white, they're colourblind. Well, squid can see a few things that we can't, okay? They can see 3 of the 6 UV light spectrums we can't, okay? And they can see, we all put polarised sunnies on so we can see different things in the water, breaks up glare and that sort of thing. Squid have got that automatically built in, okay? So they use light intensity to recognise different colours. Now, although they can see in black and white, they can recognise more shade of colour than we can. Okay, so their ability to see different shades is much better than ours. So that's why we have different coloured jigs. They use different light intensity to recognise different parts of the food that they normally eat. Now, for the size of the squid, there's no other animal in the animal kingdom that has an eye bigger than they do for their body size. It's for a very good reason. Everything is about vision. They don't have a lateral line. Did anyone see a nose on that image we had up there before? They don't have a nose, so it's all about sight. If they can't see it, they can't eat it. And that's the most important part of squid fishing. Okay, you need to make your jig or your bait as visible as you can for the squid to find it. Okay, it's all about vision.